There is something wonderful on the other side of this journey, and it is a privilege to feel, because the alternative to not feeling anything is death. Welcome to What the Hélène, the irreverent podcast for ambitious rebels who've outgrown the hustle. I'm Hélène Kaniak, your guide in reclaiming your personal power, confidence, and voice without burning out or abandoning yourself. Here, we challenge the commodification of suffering, embrace the revolutionary act of pleasure, and dismantle the systems that suppress our self-trust. Join me as we navigate the unlearning curve, redefine success on our own terms, and cultivate a life that speaks for itself. Welcome back. I have been in my feels this week, and it could sound like a very bad problem to have. But in my line of work, and especially knowing all that I've been through, to have the privilege of being able to feel my feelings is such a gift. I spent so much of my life absolutely dissociated, disconnected, prioritizing what next task I needed to accomplish, focusing on investing my worth into my resume, doing everything I could to just push through and prove myself, that now when I finally feel emotions bubble up, I let them, I welcome them. I don't care if it means I'm sitting in front of a Monet in a museum in a public place and letting myself bawl my eyes out. I'm trusting that whatever emotion needs to come out of me does so, and I welcome it. Because that's a thing no one warns you about when you start on this personal growth, development, fulfillment journey, is when you actually go to therapy, do the real inner work, uncover your childhood trauma and actually connect to it and learn from it. When you do the past life regressions, when you check in with the Akashic records, when you choose to open yourself up for the sake of introspection, you also open yourself up to the possibility of being more impacted and affected by the world at large. I think in the past, if you'd called me a highly sensitive person, I would have been so upset and I've been so mad. I've been like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not sensitive. I'm tough. I'm strong. I'm not vulnerable. But in retrospect, I was so sensitive that I felt the need to put up a big ass fucking wall in the name of productivity, in the name of proving myself and my accomplishments and my achievements, because I was just that vulnerable and was in such denial of my own vulnerability that I needed all of those coping strategies, no matter how rewarded they were by capitalism and the systems at play. So this is me warning you. When you start working on yourself, you will become more sensitive. You may become more vulnerable. And I promise you that's a good thing. And it might feel a little annoying. It might feel a little exhausting. You might get really frustrated at yourself because there is truth to the phrase that ignorance is bliss. It is easier to go through life without the self-awareness. It is easier to go through life without the empathy and compassion that connects us to one another. But it is our empathy and compassion that allows us to create the community that we crave. It allows us to create the village that supports us when we are going through the tough times. Because the alternative is to pretend the tough times aren't happening to you. And one day, I promise you, life will snap. Life will force you to wake the fuck up and you will hit a rock bottom. The difference between starting the work now and then is when life slaps you in the face, you will have other people in your life to bring you the ice back, to comfort you, to call and seek advice from when those bad moments happen to you. Because we are not exempt. We are not immune. Like I said, I've had a very in my feels kind of week. That doesn't mean bad things were happening to me. I've had a lot of wondrous things happen to me in the last month, but it's been a lot. And we are just sacks of meat walking around loosely tethered to a skeleton full of conscious minds, unconscious minds, past programming, and a big ass soul somewhere tucked in between. And that person that we're walking around as has a nervous system that can only handle so much. So when I talk about rebuilding our capacity, when I talk about creating availability for more and spaciousness in our life, I don't just mean making room for the good stuff because we want to eliminate all the bad stuff. I mean, when we create space, we make room for everything. And our capacity is our ability to hold everything that is happening to us. But even that has a limit. Even that has a threshold. We can only hold so much, even of a good thing. We can only hold so much all at once. And it is just as easy to burn out on the good thing as it is the hard thing. Because when we make ourselves more open, more sensitive, more willing to look at ourselves and look at the world around us through a discerning and generous lens, that means we are allowing our minds to take in more information, which means we might get overwhelmed pretty easily. It becomes that much more important to set energetic boundaries, to set literal boundaries, to prioritize sacred rest so that we can make sure that our big, feely, sensitive selves aren't just walking around projecting our feelings and making our sensations run the show or making our emotions everybody else's problem. Just because you're letting yourself feel all of your feelings doesn't mean you have to lead your life because of those feelings. It is a wonderful thing that you've allowed yourself to feel all of your feelings, to recognize your emotions, to be self-aware, to connect the dots, to be present and associated in your body as you feel them, because that is how we process and move through the emotion. And that does not mean that we take those emotions and feelings and turn them into action steps, that we take those sensations in our body and turn them into next steps. We have to be discerning between what is the feeling, what is the emotion, and what information is it providing? Because not all emotion is providing quality information. There's fear, there's anxiety, there's nervousness. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the situation at hand. Oftentimes, the emotion might be reminding us of something that's happened in the past, and we're actually being asked to consider the past information and choose differently moving forward. We are being asked to make a different choice. We are being asked to move as if the past is not how we're going to repeat our future. So the emotion is information, but we have to pause long enough to hear it. We have to cultivate the skill to listen to it without judgment, without trying to figure out where it came from before we let ourselves actually process and feel it and hold space for it. Now, this is where different modalities can support you, whether that's therapy, whether that's a certified life coach, whether it's somatic meditations, whether it's guided breath work, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, EFT tapping, whatever modality you use, it's important that you recognize there's going to be a cognitive piece. Your mind has to understand what's going on, but there's also going to be a physical piece. There is the somatic component of where in your body the emotion is being stored and where does it need to be released from. Understanding your feelings and intellectualizing them is not going to actually help you move through them, past them, or learn from them. I spent a lot of years being able to tell you why I was angry, who I was angry at, whose fault it was, what was my part to play in it, taking on too much responsibility, and blaming myself for being angry instead of doing anything about it. But at no point did I allow myself to actually feel my anger to its fullest extent. Now, I'll have another podcast episode about anger specifically, because I think so often we villainize anger and we define it by the negative outcome of anger, the emotion. But in reality, let's remember the emotion is the feeling that you have within you. It is not the action you take because of that feeling. So when I say anger, you might picture punching a hole through a wall. But anger is actually this roiling in my chest that is happening self-contained within my body. It is this influx of energy that is coming up and begging to be burst out loud. Now that could manifest in many different actions. I could hold it in and repress it, and that could turn into resentment and a heavy weight in the pit of my stomach anytime I go to talk to someone that pisses me off. Or it could manifest into me screaming into a pillow or in my garage or vigorously weeding my garden. There are many ways for us to manifest the emotion, but that is not alone the only way to process it. We have to first recognize it, see it within ourselves, acknowledge our sensitivity without villainizing it outright. Another aspect of learning how to feel your feelings is feeling the emotion beneath the one you're comfortable with. So, as I mentioned, anger was always a very comfortable emotion for me. It was a defensive, productive, forward-moving emotion. Anger is very powerful. It gets you out of stillness and stuckness. And when you're trying to survive and anger feels like what you're seeing around you as moving the needle, that is the emotion that you're going to default to. My biggest challenge wasn't just feeling all of my feelings and being in my body and learning where my emotion lived in my body. It was also recognizing that the anger was protecting me from the hurt, was protecting me from the grief, from the sadness, from the betrayal that felt too vulnerable to feel, because hurt, vulnerability, pain, betrayal, those are all emotions that leave you feeling a little bit helpless. They force you to see yourself a little bit like the victim of the circumstance, a little bit like something to whom life is happening to. The problem with feeling your sadness and your vulnerable feelings, including betrayal, is it leaves you feeling powerless to do anything about it. These are not hard-charging emotions. These are the feelings that force you to sit with the fact that you might have been a victim in a circumstance, that life may have unfairly happened to you. And that is a really hard thing to grapple with when you've fostered so much of your identity into this notion that you are strong and fierce and independent and powerful, and nothing can happen to you that isn't within your realm of control. If we're really committed to feeling our feelings, we have to also confront the identity that was formed because we chose not to feel them in the first place. We have to recognize that there was a benefit to us suppressing the sad and holding on to anger, Or maybe if you grew up in a household where crying and showing the sad, hurt emotions were what allow you to survive, then maybe your challenge is actually tapping into the anger, is tapping into the part of you that actually wants to fight back, that needs to shout. But the thought of doing that feels terrifying to you. Whatever you're not comfortable with feeling is where your growth edge lies, is where your progress gets to be made. But it's likely where there is an identity formed saying, hey, if I let myself feel that, I become someone that is unsafe for me to be. I become a version of myself that is now a powerless victim of circumstance. Or if you're afraid of feeling anger, maybe the thought of becoming angry is becoming abusive or cruel or violent or any other negative connotations we have with whoever was angry in our face back when we were younger. So now that you know that there are different identities that you might have to grapple with just by choosing to feel your feelings, which sounds really sweet and romantic to say in a song, but feels really kind of shitty when you start doing it for the first time. Let me tell you what's on the other side of this. The benefit to feeling your feelings, especially the hard ones and the yucky ones and the ones that make us feel a little bit like a victim of circumstance, that make us feel a little bit like an asshole, that make us want to judge ourselves a little harshly. The good thing about feeling all of those is the depth to which we are willing to feel the hard, negative, yucky emotions is also the height to which we allow ourselves to feel the positive emotions, the joy, the sadness, the excitement, the pleasure, the unbridled, carefree, whimsical self that wants to come out. She gets to come out because she's allowed herself to feel angry. The height, the volume, the ceiling to which you get to feel all of these joyful, pleasurable, exciting emotions is controlled by the depth to which you are willing to dig into the yucky, negative, uncomfy emotions. Both of those things provide information. There's information to be had in the pleasure of what you like, of what you don't like, of what stimulates you, of what drives you to try something new because you're excited by the novelty, by the love, the compassion, the hope, the peace. All of those things can be powerful motivators, and they can all provide incredible information. But we cannot live life either just prioritizing the happy ones and spiritually bypassing all the negative shit. Because even though ignorance may be bliss, ignorance is not how we make better, smarter choices moving forward. And if any part of you wants to change any aspect of your status quo, ignorance is not going to solve your problem because you are already aware of wanting to change. You are already aware that something needs to be different. And I'm sorry to say it, but that means now the responsibility is on you to do something differently, because that awareness, once you have it, cannot be removed from you. It is not going anywhere. So buckle up, Buttercup, because things are about to get really interesting. And what I encourage you to do is, as you navigate the depth of your emotions, as you navigate the maximum potential for how pleasurable your life gets to be, that you not do it alone. To do this completely alone, without a village, without a community, especially if it's your first foray into deep introspection, self-awareness, and seeking to change your life, please seek out support. Whether that's someone like me, who's a certified coach, whether it's someone like a therapist, whether it's a free resource, or truly leaning on your community and mentors and advisors to hold space for you in a way that is ethical, responsible, and exactly what you need. It is a very good time for you to start asking yourself, what do I want? What do I need? What kind of support would allow me to be vulnerable? Who do I want in front of me or next to me as I explore this deeper journey? Knowing that I'm going to leave feeling a little sensitive, feeling a little messier, being more okay with my messy, sensitive side. That's the beauty. To bring it full circle, the benefit of being more sensitive is that you also are more sensitive to all of the beautiful things in this world. To use an analogy, I don't love being cold. I am very much built to be in the sun, and there's no such thing as too hot for my body. Yet, we are in the dead of winter, and it is not my favorite thing in the world. The cool thing about winter, though, is the snow-covered ground allows me to see all of the different critters that walk across my front yard, all of the different birds and deer and rabbits and dogs that come across my yard, feed at the bird feeder, nibble on that plant, maybe pee on my tree. But these are things I would never get to see in the summertime or even in the fall. Because thanks to the snow, which I am sensitive to, it's cold and its slipperiness, and yeah, it's kind of a bitch to like walk out to my car and try not to die, I am also given a chance to rejoice in wonderment and notice how big my ecosystem actually is that I never got to see, because this snow has now made me present to all the possibilities that were invisible to me before. Giving yourself a chance to feel your feelings, to move through this personal development journey, to move towards personal fulfillment, is giving yourself a chance to see more possibilities in your future, more opportunity, not just for growth, but for you to hold yourself and see yourself as messy and sensitive and vulnerable and still perfect as you are. It is not asking you to change to be anyone else. There's a reason my one-on-one program is called The Reclamation, because we are not becoming anyone different. We are looking inward. We are looking at our past selves. We are looking at our highest selves, and we are asking ourselves, who do I want to be once again? What parts of myself did I maybe give away? What power have I outsourced? What aspects of my identity did I build and conform to a fear? Where did I let fear shape my identity? Where did I let those emotions like anger or sadness become the only ones I could feel? And how do I allow myself to reclaim the range of emotion, the range of human possibility and opportunity in this life? How do I reclaim the carefree childlike joy that I once had without qualm, without guilt, without feeling judged or like I couldn't get to be a child? That is the level and depth of pleasure and privilege that comes with a full reclamation. Because when you become more attuned to your feelings, more self-aware without letting it turn into existential dread, when you become more connected to your body, to your spirit, to your soul, and to your mind, when you can recognize not every feeling and emotion is something that you have to act upon, but it is information that you can use to guide your actions. When you fully sit with all of that and reclaim the whole of yourself, you not only become a better leader for your community, for your family, you also get to implicitly guide others on that same journey. You become a safer person for people to turn to because you reflect back to others the depth of feeling and emotion that you are capable of sitting with. One of my favorite quotes is, people can only offer us the depth of intimacy that they have with themselves. I'll say it again because I love it so much. People can only offer us the depth of intimacy that they have with themselves. That also means that you can only offer others the intimacy, the connection, the vulnerability that you have allowed yourself to sit with and explore within you. So if you want deeper connections, if you want more meaningful relationships, if you want better friendships, if you want to be a villager and have a village, if you want the promotion to be a better leader and be a transformational one at that, if you want to put yourself back in the narrative of your own life, then you deserve to do that from a place of greater depth, greater intimacy, so you can actually influence the world and make the changes that you want to see on a profound and sustainable level. That's my warning to you. It comes with love. It comes wrapped in discernment and encouragement, but trust. Yes, this process might be a little messy. Yes, it might leave you feeling a little raw in the middle. One of my favorite analogies for this process, especially if you're tapping back into vulnerability, is when you start dabbling with it, when you start feeling your feelings again, when you start exploring your own personal growth and fulfillment journey. Sometimes it can feel like a hermit crab crawling out of its shell in search of a larger shell. Right now, you're in your shell, it's feeling uncomfortable, your status quo is chafing at the edges, you're feeling a little confined, a little stuck, a little uncomfy, right? Like you have reached your edge. This is a literal growth edge for you. And you know that a bigger, better space for you to grow into, for you to be more comfortable in, is out there. But it feels like requiring you to leave your shell. You're going to have to take your squishy self and exit the hard protected casing that you have spent your life building in order to go seek newer and better shelter. And when you expose yourself to the environments, it's going to feel cold. It's going to feel sensitive. It's going to feel a little extra uncomfy. It's going to feel new. Anytime you are moving towards growth, it's going to feel a little bit like not you, because it isn't. All at once, you are reclaiming who you've always been, who you were always supposed to be, while letting go of who you've learned to cope as. And so when you let go of the coping strategy, it's going to feel unfamiliar. It might even feel like a different version of yourself that you don't recognize. And it's going to test you. It's going to challenge you. It's going to make you feel impatient. It's going to make you ask, when the fuck is this over? And can I please stop getting sent lessons from the universe? I would like to have learned the lesson and move on already. Unfortunately for you, anytime we want something new for ourselves, anytime we want more, a new position, a new challenge, a new adventure, we are being confronted with the ask and the task of rising to the occasion. Anytime we want something more for ourselves, we're gonna have to learn. As they say, new level, new devil. If you want something beyond your status quo, it's gonna come with the territory of being a little bit challenged. Here's the reframe on that analogy. One of the reasons my group program is called the Self-Expression Academy, the C, is because its original mascot is actually the octopus, not the hermit crab. Because what I want you to learn as you move out of this hardened shell and exoskeleton that you've created for yourself, when you're feeling soft and gushy and vulnerable, rather than ask you to go find another hard shell to seek refuge in, I ask you to embrace the mush. I ask you to embrace the flexibility and the malleability and the wisdom that comes from being this really cool invertebrate, ancient as hell at the bottom of the ocean, able to adapt to its environment, use its environment to protect itself when it needs to, that recognizes its flexibility, its vulnerability is its greatest asset and strength, and allows it to reach more places, to connect with more of its environment, to let the fact that it can feel blend in when it needs to, stand out when it wants to. And octopuses are just generally really fucking cool, okay? I'll be honest. And if you're coming at me for how I'm pluralizing octopuses, know that it has both a Latin root and a Greek root. So you can say octopi, octopuses, or octopodes. Your choice. But either way, I promise you I'm not wrong on this one. So that's what I'm asking you to be. To leave your hermit crab shell, realize and reclaim that you're actually an octopus, meant for more, to explore this deep blue sea, and to genuinely learn to love your life and recognize that uncertainty, discomfort, some of that mushiness that's a little unfamiliar is part of the process. You are not alone in exploring it. I am here. Others are here for you. And if you don't know who to reach out to, please at least reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram. You can email me at hello@helencanhelp.com. I always put my information in the show notes so that you don't have to feel alone as you're going through this journey. Please come say hello. And remember, there is something wonderful on the other side of this journey, and it is a privilege to feel, because the alternative to not feeling anything is death. What most people don't understand about pain and the fact that it is a privilege is because we see pain as this negative thing, all hard, achy, hurt, betrayal, fear, emotions, that all of those feelings are such a disservice. In truth, pain is not the opposite of pleasure. Pain and pleasure live on the same frequency of sensation. They are on the same end of the scale. The opposite of pain and pleasure is actually numb. It's no sensation. It is being so dissociated from all of the feelings within you that you might as well be dead. Now, that might sound a little harsh, but when I tell you that feeling my hard, sobby, crying emotions in the middle of a museum in public is a privilege, I say that because I know the alternative is to be akin to a zombie walking through this world disconnected from it all. And it is my ability to connect to my pain that allows me to connect to the heights and exciting aspects of my pleasure. And I know that pain is just another way for me to listen to my body, to connect to what I need to know, to tap in and tune in to the wisdom that I've yet to uncover. And it's always a reminder of how present and alive I am and get to be. If this episode resonated for you, please, I'd love to see you comment below what aspect did you relate to the most. Thank you very much. Do share it with your friends and family. And if you haven't yet, rate it 5 stars if you're so willing. Thank you very much. This has been What the Helen. I'll see you in the next episode.